Hey, darlings. Today I want to talk about self love and self acceptance. And I want to talk about it as somebody who spent a lot of my teens and my 20s just really not loving myself. And because of that, I was in a deep, war within myself. Anytime that somebody brought up something that hinted that I did something wrong, I was in this place of self loathing. Like, I went so deep down into I can't do anything right. There's no way that anyone loves me because I'm inconsistent. I can't do anything right no matter what I do or how hard I try. Somebody's always mad at me. And so, this is something that I was really struggling with until just a year or two ago when I finally started to learn to love myself and accept who I am, and accept also that I'm not perfect and I never will be, and nobody actually expects me to be perfect. It was all a self imposed requirement for myself. And I think this is really, and I'll put it in these terms, it's a sin of pride, right? It is um, the weight of pride to think that we can be perfect, to think that we will never disappoint or upset someone. And really, what I found is that I was disappointing myself more than I was actually disappointing other people. When I started having conversations with my parents years after something happened, and I pointed out how weighed I was by the thought that I could never do anything right in their eyes, they looked at me like I was insane because they never expected any of that from me. They expected me to mess up. They expected me not to be perfect. They even, like, my parents are the kind of parents who will even be like, we want you to go out and do things. And I was so afraid to go out and do things because I thought I couldn't trust myself to do the right thing. I couldn't trust myself to do the thing that they wanted to do. And I think that this is where, a lot of us um, will mistake self acceptance and self love as meaning that we somehow, that's my cat, and she might make her way out this way. Um, we mistake other people agreeing with everything that we do to mean that we are worthy of love, that we are worthy as we are. Here's the cat. Miss Cleo, say hi, baby. um, and it's just not true, right? We are worthy because we are here. We are worthy because we are alive. We are worthy because we were created and made by a God who loves us as we are. A God who says to us, come as you are, and whose love does transform us, not that we have to change for God, but that God's love just instantly or over time softens our hearts in a way that we can let go even the perfectionism, even the self-loathing, even this idea that we are unlovable, because you are totally lovable. And the path that I took to get me from self-disappointment, self-loathing, perfectionism, self-imposed perfectionism, was really spending time on my land, on my property. I had moved from my parents' house, bought my own house, and I happened to get a 1 acre property. And for me, spending time with the land, spending time tending to the land, tending to the trees and the bushes, because I have fruit trees and fruit shrubs like figs and apple and hibiscus flower trees and things like that. Tending to the land really helped me reconnect with creation in a way that soothed my heart, softened my heart, because now there was something that I could pour my heart into that would show me through life and growth or death whether my tending was enough for its needs. And it was nothing personal, right? Like we think that an eye roll or a deep sigh is all of a sudden like this dagger to our hearts. But when we start connecting with nature, it's not like that. Nature doesn't do that to us. And I think this is why God created these beautiful creations of, you know, our brothers and sisters as like nature, you know, the flowers, the plants, the trees, the sky, the sun, all of that. These are our like siblings by the creation of God. And by communing in this way of stewardship to the land, I really was opening my heart to be tended to by the land, by my brothers and sisters in God, and by God itself, by God Himself, to just really, just soften in my beingness and kind of recover and restore into that sensitive being that I was as a child before I got so blinded by this false conditioning that I needed to be perfect. And it wasn't even something that my parents asked from me. My parents asked from me honesty and discipline and duty and obedience, but they didn't ask from me perfection. I asked perfection from me. And if I go back and think about it, you know, again, pride and perfectionism go together. And it is this belief that somehow I have to be something for everybody. And it is also this perfectionism. It's also like rejecting help from anyone else because nobody can do it as good as I can, or nobody can help me the way that I help them. This is a thing of being closed. And so my healing and my self-acceptance and self-love was really a practice of opening myself to be receptive, to receive help, to receive the compliments that were given to me, to receive from God and from creation that I am enough. And so that was one thing that really helped me a lot. Just time in nature, time tending to nature. And then the other thing that helped me a lot, I would say, is I was always a contemplative, but I really got to start a practice of connecting with myself without requirement for anything to happen. And this is like, I was a contemplative and a poet and a little bit of an artist, and a lot of times we can judge ourselves and our worthiness by the output that we have. You know, how long did it take me to create this picture? I used to paint in pastels or draw in pastels, and like if it took me a really long time to paint a pastel, like it was beautiful at the end and I loved it, and then I was like, how can I do this quicker? And then I was like, with the poetry, how many poems can I do a day? How many poems can be really great poems in a certain time period? And I was measuring myself by some output that, it just came from like this society and this culture that we live in that measures us by our performance and by our output. And in order to really start accepting myself and start loving myself, I had to let go of this requirement for an output. The sun is starting to go down, so I'm just putting some more light in here. And to do that, it was really just me connecting with myself by doing womb meditations, like really focusing on the womb. And I particularly find this one the most beneficial for me in the last several months, maybe the last 4 or 5 months in particular. Like, even though I did other meditations and other spiritual practices, the womb meditation has taken it to another level, because I am reminded of the fact that God made us in the darkness and numbered our hairs and knit us in the darkness. And where are we created on this like planet, right? On this physical reality, in the womb. It doesn't get darker for a human being than when they are in mother's womb. And to meditate with womb, to do womb meditations and really invite myself into that quiet, dark place within my own body that would, maybe one day hold a child of my own, was really to reconnect with God in that place and know that my essence is in the unseen. My worth is in the unseen pockets of what God created. And when I really started to practice this on a daily basis, there's so many things that I thought I had healed that hadn't healed completely, or that were still kind of in my body and weighing me down. And this practice that I was able to go through, and I will thank Autumn Rose from Embodied Jaguar, who I was in mentorship with in her program Primordial Womb for this, because she really invited us from this like mental plane of meditation and mental plane of connecting with body, with womb, into this depth of remembering that it is like the central point of meeting with God, of meeting with, the essence with which we were made. And there's so much more to it, but to keep it kind of on the higher level, meditate with your womb if you're a female, with your heart if you are a male. And of course you can meditate with both. They hold different frequencies of of our creation. And from that I got massaging, in a non-sexual way, right? In a very innocent way, to lay hands on my own body, to feel the softness of my skin, to touch my face with love and reverence, because this is a body and a face that was made by a loving God, a God that is both mother and father to us, and that loves us just as we are. And yes, we will always evolve, we will always kind of initiate into the next level and the next phase of life. We are constantly becoming, but in our becoming we are also returning. And I can do another video on all of that stuff. So to come back to self-love and self-acceptance, we can start there, right? Connecting with nature, connecting with our bodies, with our wombs, with our hearts. And in doing these two primary things, there's so much that will come up for you to be witnessed, to be loved on, to come into acknowledgement with, and to either allow the ego death, allow the death of what was and no longer needs to be there anymore, to allow the death of what no longer serves us and what no longer is needs to come with us, and also to witness and recollect the parts of us, the fragments that were put down or let go for a season because we didn't feel safe with them, or we felt that we needed to push it down in order to survive. Like, these two things happen when you really start to practice self-love and self-acceptance, right? It is a journey of really seeing yourself as God sees you, and seeing yourself in everything that has happened throughout your whole life, and knowing that some things, yes, were meant to evolve. Like, you're not going to be the same person you were when you were 3, but there was some wisdom that your 3-year-old self had that maybe you were taught wasn't appropriate for this world, but you get to bring it back in your adulthood, or at whatever age you are, and realize that the wisdom that the 3-year-old self of you had was really because of her pure, direct connection, unadulterated connection to God. And that gets to be revitalized and restored today, and oriented and associated in the right relationship with who you are today. And then there's also the parts of you that were never actually you, or were the woundings, so like the results from wounds that you experienced in life that made you be a little bit more bristly, made you be a little bit more orderly or matter of fact, and now you get to soften them, or now you get to integrate them in a way that they are no longer triggers for you, but rather they are a season of life and an opportunity for maturing into the woman that you are. Beautiful, divine woman, woman that is totally loved and totally accepted for who she is, and she is still becoming, and she is still returning to God every day, and she chooses it every day. And so those are my thoughts today on self-love and self-acceptance, and I will do another video very soon, probably in the next day or two, or over the weekend, which is in the next day or two at the time of this recording, but I'll do it within the next week, to really go into more of this self-acceptance piece, because I know a lot of us have some integration to do with things that we have done in our lives that maybe others didn't agree with, and perhaps made us feel wrong for, or just other opinions on what is appropriate and what is not, and how that has led us to feel guilty or shamed for just things that we've done in life. And that's part of our self-acceptance, part of our self-love, and part of integration. So until the next video, I hope that you like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the things that help a channel grow if you like this video, and leave some comments below on whether or not you've done womb meditations before, whether or not you have found that caring and tending and stewarding land has actually helped you in your self mastery and your self growth, and in your self love journey, your self acceptance journey, your journey in becoming a better, well rounded woman, and really allowing your femininity to shine. Or if you have any questions, please leave comments below. I would love to hear your questions, your comments, so that way I can make more videos like this as time permits. And so until the next video, be well, and I will see you soon. Much love.